Hey there, guys. It's Icey here. Please pardon the shoddy microphone quality. Um, I am doing this on my phone right now because I'm in the process of evacuating for Hurricane Florence, and I don't really have my normal stuff with me, which even then doesn't matter a whole lot because my dog messed up my headset rather badly. Um, about a couple days after I last recorded or last uploaded the last Empire War video, and I mean I haven't been able to afford a new one. Now, I probably could have been recording on my phone all this time, but I didn't really know or consider if this would be a good enough audio fidelity to really be worth presenting on YouTube. So let me know what you guys think of how this sounds, if you want me to record with this and still make content with questionable audio quality, or if you would just like me to hold off on videos like I've been doing until I can get a proper microphone.
Have fun.
So yeah, I wanted to make a video giving my thoughts on the rather limited amount of experience I got to have with the Battlefield 5 beta. I got to play it for a few days before the evacuation notice was given. So I have a little bit of footage, and I thought I would give my impressions, I guess. But don't take this as whether or not you should buy it when it releases, because I only got a few days of experience and I was still learning, everything new with that Battlefield 5 before, everyone else, I guess. So, yeah, take what I say with a grain of salt. But I figured I'd get out there now instead of waiting for, a couple weeks or a month or more until I get a new mic. Alright, so I guess I should preface this with my experiences in previous Battlefield games. So if there's some sort of bias here, I might be able to, get it out there. I don't know. I don't really think that my experience will affect it too much, but I figured I'd get out there. So I didn't really care for Battlefield 1 at all. I really enjoyed Battlefield 3 and 4, and I own them both. I have lots of time into there. And with Battlefield 1, I never bought it. I just never really cared for it, but I played at a friend's house a few times, and it just wasn't my style. So, with that out of the way, Battlefield 5 was very pretty, which I expected out of a modern Battlefield game, but I had to run it on the absolute lowest settings possible, and it still looked rather pretty, which is, what caught me off guard. I expected to look at kind of abysmal on minimum settings, but it was alright. The footage you're seeing here, of course, is on very minimum graphics settings because I need to do that for my computer to run it. I averaged about 35 FPS on my 750 Ti and my Intel Xeon. So maybe the beta is a little unoptimized, but this is also just a slightly dated build. But even then, I found it pretty enjoyable to play. It reminded me a bit of Battlefield 1, but I enjoyed it a lot more than my experience with Battlefield 1. It kept me entertained for longer, for sure. So there were two maps we got to play in the beta, Rotterdam and Narvik. And I think the first I'm going to talk about is Rotterdam. Rotterdam was a really big, well, not really big, but relatively large, rather pretty looking, actually, urban map in Norway, I think. I don't remember. But I really enjoyed this map a lot more than Narvik actually. It's got a lot of places to flank objectives and to use the new building mechanic, which I'm going to talk about later. And it, feels viable for using any class, whether you're using the super short range SMG or the long scope on whatever the default sniper rifle is. I already forgot. Um, a big thing I noticed on this map is that it is really easy to sneak up on tanks, and if you and your friend have C4 equipped, you can kill them pretty easily without them being able to react. Of course, that's not to say that skilled tank players killed us a lot. I've just noticed that's a lot easier to jump out of a building with C4, blow up a tank, and call it a day without them really ever noticing. But I guess that's all kind of a matter of placement. Like, you have that same issue in previous Battlefield games if you're not paying attention and you don't have your team with you. So I don't really think that's the fault of the map Rotterdam itself, but rather just how gameplay in Battlefield is in general. Now, while all that's said, there is a few things about this map I didn't particularly care for, and one of them was the V1 rockets that were seemingly constantly raining down on the map in the late game. I don't really know if these were attempts at like a Levolution event or if they were something that is somehow being called in by other players. But like I said, near the end of the round, it seemed like they were just constantly falling. And if it doesn't outright kill you, it like knocks you back and makes you go prone from vision. And I just found them rather tedious more than anything. And I mean, if it's random evolution, it's just an hell. And if it's like some sort of player reward or something, I would hope at least they put more of a cooldown on using it, or like some sort of limit or something. But that way, just like to keep it from being spammed onto the spawn points, and just it seems like an easy way to spawn trap people, sort of near the end of the match, and generally it's the winning team that has them anyway. So another thing I didn't really care for Rotterdam is it seemed like a lot of parts of the maps were copy pasted, especially on the building interiors. But I mean, this trend I've felt like has been in almost every Battlefield game that I can remember. So I guess I can't gripe about that too much. But when you're fighting inside of buildings and stuff, there isn't any variety. You're just walking into empty red room after empty red room in all of these different buildings next to each other. It just gets a little repetitive, I guess. Now, the other map that we got to play during the beta is Narvik, which is this big, wide open, well, not entirely wide open, but much more open than Rotterdam, like frozen, snowy seaport type thing. And unlike Rotterdam, we got to play two different modes on this map. So we had the normal conquest mode, and then we had Grand Operation. And Grand Operations was an attack defense game mode divided into different days. In this instant, it was 2 days. And on day one, it would take place at night, and the British would airdrop out of these troop transport plane things, and they to arm for explosives that the German team had to defend while stalling them out and making them run out of tickets, much like Rush in previous Battlefield games. And then in day two, the attackers had to capture sets of conquest objectives, and like last time, the defenders have to stall until they run out of respawn tickets. And I had a lot of fun on this actually. it was a refreshing difference from the same conquest game over and over again. But the main complaint I have in there was what I'm hoping is a bug is that when the attackers lost day one, it would still progress to day two as if they won. So the first day is kind of pointless because no matter who wins, the day two still happens, and the opening cutscene is still the same whether the defenders win or lose. So I'm assuming that's a bug. We'll just have to wait and see into the um, release of the game, I guess, because I haven't noticed anything said about it, but I also haven't looked very hard. So yeah, I didn't really find Conquest on Rick as enjoyable as I did Grand Operations. Like I said earlier, the map is very wide open, and Grand Operations kind of forced players to fight in a smaller environment around each objective rather than having that whole wide open map to deal with. And the issue I have with that is almost everyone was playing Recon, and really any other class didn't feel viable to play unless you were really, really good at tap firing with LMGs with the medium scope equipped. And, it just made it feel like a game of who can camp and spot other snipers the best. Um, as usual, tanks weren't really a big threat on this map because if you have the dedication to play the NT tank class, it's really easy to hide in leaves of a bush or a tree or in a snowdrift and jump out on them when they're not suspecting. My main complaint about this map was the air combat. I didn't get to fly myself, but I heard from a lot of people that fighters were really unenjoyable to play and just slow and clumsy and fun. And from what I've watched as an infantry player, just looking into the sky, they look rather odd. It's like they seem to drift in the last direction that they were going. If you turn and then you start going straight, you're still going to be drifting to the side, sort of. And that just doesn't seem odd. And people seem to agree with me because of that, no one was playing fighters, which let bomber players have free rule of the sky. And since infantry weapons and black placements around the map weren't all that effective, I watched bomber players going with 30, 40, 50 kills without any deaths just because they stayed in the bomber the whole game. And, that just wasn't a lot of fun, especially with in Conquest when they're dive bombing the last objective and you're getting spawn killed by it because they're just covering the entire capture zone in explosives. This problem also persisted in Grand Operations in the final stages, and it basically leveled all of the buildings and the capture points so there was no cover. And at that rate, there's nothing you can do at the defending team. So, maps aside, I figured I ought to talk about some of the overall gameplay features, what I thought was good, what I thought was bad, and just give some general thoughts on the new mechanics they introduced to the game. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the building system. Frankly, when I first heard of this, I expected it to be kind of a useless gimmick that wouldn't affect anything, but would just be there as a marketing selling point thing. But I was rather pleasantly surprised as I played. I often did take the time to build myself, but I did find routes to the objective blocked off by sandbags and barbed wire that players had put down, forcing me to find new routes into the objective, and I think it works rather effectively as cover and to funnel players into checkpoints. And overall, I thought that it was a rather interesting feature. It was more useful on Rotterdam than it was on Narvik by far. Um, you can't put them anywhere, of course. Basically, you press T to take out a hammer, put your gun away, and enter build mode. And there are highlighted areas around the map. And if you just hold left click on them, a defensive structure, be it sandbags or just piles of rubbles, will be built. And I mean, it helped keep me alive when one of these were built and it was in a place without normally any cover. It gave me something to hide behind without dying. Now, I think one of the really big fundamental changes to this is making players spawn with considerably less ammo and having a much slower health regeneration rate. And now they have ammo caches and health caches around the map, generally around the capture points and conquests. I think the idea behind this is to encourage more teamwork, which I mean is a good idea on paper, but in practice, Battlefield players aren't really going to help each other. Your support players don't care about giving out ammo, and your medic players don't really care about giving out healing. So you end up being doomed to run out of ammo or die in a firefight from not being able to heal fast enough because your teammates aren't there to help you. Which, granted, some people like. Some people have been really against health regeneration in shooters in general. But in Battlefield, when it's so orientated about working as a team and your players just don't care about doing that, it kind of dooms the individual to get screwed over. And yeah, I'm shoddy at the game, so maybe I'm just complaining about dying a lot. But I don't feel like this is a very good change in the long run because, I mean, until players start working together, you're kind of screwed. Another interesting change they've done is by completely redoing the revive and respawn system in Battlefield 5. Um, Now, when you're killed, like you would in previous games, it zooms out on your body. It shows who killed you, what weapon they used, what level they are, their emblem, all of that stuff. And now instead of going back to the class select screen, you are take or entered into an incapacitated state like you would in, say, Rainbow Six Siege or I guess Left 4 Dead or Call of Duty Zombies, though you wouldn't have a weapon out while you like this. And you are left laying there with a bleed out timer, which you can either speed up if you want to respawn quicker, or you can call for help, which will considerably slow down the respawn time or the bleed out timer and causes your character to start like screaming for their mother and it hurts, please save me, yada yada yada, which I guess would get someone else's attention. And I guess it's good for immersion and stuff if that's what you want, but it also makes it much, much longer for you to, just get back to the class selection screen and respawn when you want to. Because even if you speed up that bleed out timer, it's still a good 5-10 seconds before you're taken back to the class select screen. And they also changed it so that, at least from what I've seen, any person of any class can revive you in your squad, but every medic can, and every medic revives you much faster than your squad mates do if they're not playing the medic class. And I actually kind of like it. It allows squads to still function without needing a medic there, though you're going to be left very vulnerable if you're not healing someone as a medic, because as a medic the respawn or the revive animation's about maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 seconds. But if you're healing someone as a recon, an assault, or a support, it's going to take you a good 5 to 7 seconds to pick someone up. And that is very, very risky for you to do, especially with how high the time to kill in this game is. This is a little bit more of a minor thing, but the entire time I played the beta, I didn't use a vehicle once because I can never figure out how to spawn one in. They don't spawn at your deployment in like normal, and instead you sort of like call them in, not like a kill streak, but like you spawn them in somehow. But I never figured out how to do it because there's no tutorial or anything like that. And I couldn't figure out how to use the building system either until I accidentally hit the build key while I was sort of mashing buttons. So I think they really need a way to tell new players how to use the new mechanics, even if they're returning from a different Battlefield game, because they didn't make it clear at all. This next big mechanic might be from Battlefield 1. I haven't played enough of Battlefield 1 to actually know if this was a thing in it or not. But in Battlefield 5, they pretty much completely removed the spotting system that you would find in Battlefield 3 and 4. And now the only way to 3D spot people is with a sniper gadget that is basically just like a spotting scope that you would have in real life. And it has a zoom, I think, comparable to the 40 times scope. And it's kind of a pain to use at the sizes of the maps you have. But if you hover over an enemy while you're aiming down sights with this, then they'll get 3D spotted instantly. And now instead, the Q key places a marker wherever you're aiming for your squad mates to see, which, I mean, I used on occasion, but honestly, unless my squad mates were paying attention, they wouldn't really know the look or to see it, I guess. And I mean, a lot of people wanted 3D spotting gone, so I think this is an understandable change. At this rate, I'm sort of rambling, so I'm gonna give some final closing thoughts and end the video here. Overall, I had a pretty fun time playing, especially when I was squatted up with my friends and we were joking around and having a fun time. And, it's a good game to play with your friends, but DICE really needs to make some big changes to get this game into a proper release state. I would say I still enjoy Battlefield 3 and 4 a lot more than I did Battlefield 5, but much like Battlefield 1, it just wasn't necessarily my style. EA and DICE were taking some creative liberties with the series, and that's definitely a good thing, because without variety, you're just going to end up being another Call of Duty. But I just don't necessarily agree with where they took said liberties, and I just enjoy the older games better. Now, I'm not saying don't buy the game. If you enjoyed Battlefield 1, I think you're going to like this a lot more than I did. But I'm personally not going to buy this unless it goes on a big sale and I don't really have anything else I want to spend my money on, or unless all of my friends decide to get it and want me to come play it with them. And even then, I wouldn't do it unless it was on sale. But overall, I had a decent experience playing the beta. It had its ups and downs, and I mean, it's what you expect from a Battlefield game, I guess, nowadays. It was alright.
I love how you can see bullets. Oh my god. Really cool. I could appreciate, like, the mechanics. Oh shit. And like how the game, like, bullets work and shit. Looks really neat. There are a lot of glitches and a lot of things that need to be fixed, but this could be a really good game. Like, a game that I see myself putting a lot of time into. If they add more content and updates and maps and shit, this would be a really fun game.